Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show, where we spotlight individuals and organizations powering the good in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we're joined by Kimberley Fulwood, founder of KF Strategies. She's a strategic leadership coach and an expert at helping organizations move from chaos to clarity. And with more than 2 decades of experience guiding teams in marketing, communications, and operations, Kimberley has made it her mission to build people-first systems that empower leaders, streamline workflows, and create sustainable growth. We're going to talk about the journey that led her to launch her own company, the power of aligning people and processes, and how organizations of any size can create healthy, adaptable systems that truly serve their teams. Kimberley, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, so let's start with your journey. Looking back, what do you see as sort of the pivotal moment that ignited your mission to start KF Strategies, and how does that shape the way you work with clients today?
Well, as you mentioned, I've been in this industry for over 25 years, and I've worked in the business long enough to understand that it's more about your people and your processes, right? And so I was nervous about stepping out in faith and taking that big step. And am I smart enough? Am I good enough? All the lies that are typically just shared in your brain. And I had a divine moment on an airplane where I was told that delayed disobedience is still disobedience. And I believe that God had called me to step out in faith and start this business. And ever since, he's shown up and shown out. And so that spiritual foundation is really what has shaped how I work with my clients and other team members. My people first, process second. That's a faith-driven philosophy. The approach to me and how I see my clients and my partners as part of a divine plan. Like every approach in approaching their chaos and with the same trust and clarity, if you will. And so seeking the processes that help guide the business to help clients find their own moment of clarity, right? Amidst the confusion and chaos that typically unfolds in most agencies and businesses alike.
Yeah. And in our lives just as a whole, I mean, whether you are sort of, just starting your career and your family, to owning a multi-million-dollar business, to just the head trash that goes on in your head, like you were saying. And so you mentioned people first, process second. How do you ensure that systems enhance rather than hinder creativity and connection?
Great question. So what I find is that so many businesses or agencies, and even our world right now, it's all about the widget. It's not about the person. And I think really that's what our society is actually crying out for, is more focus, more help. See me, see what I need, see the pains and challenges, and then see the talent that can come from that once you understand a person and how they're designed and how they were built to do certain things. And you're asking them to stretch into other roles that maybe they shy away from because it's not their strong suit, right? So I go into businesses and I take the people first by doing a discovery. I can't come in cold, right? But I do believe that if you author it, you'll embrace it. And so I help agencies define key people within the organization to help author the solution. So I listen to their pain points. I listen to their challenges. I listen to what they think they're great at and what they are hindered in being able to do on the daily. And so is that a people issue? Is it a process issue? Or is it a systems issue? And so that helps steer me in the right direction. And it's almost always a people issue.
Yeah. We've seen that firsthand. I think what is so cool about the work that you're doing is, sure, you will work in specific softwares, widgets, such, but it is really I've seen it to where you're transforming businesses, and
Mhm.
it's so cool to then see an owner that is burnout and feels like they've already created the business and they can't scale. And then you come in and go, wait a minute, do you have the right people in the right place? Why is
Mhm.
this person who is shining in this industry or this aspect of creativity, why aren't you using them for X or Y? And then when you put them in that place, and now you have this new sense of growth and curiosity that helps build the business. It's so cool to see. So as like a strategic leadership coach, in a way as well, you help leaders focus on mindset and culture rather than just tools or technology. But in the meantime of working with those tools and technology, you're helping that culture, which is huge. And workplace culture is such a term right now that
Yeah.
we hear so often, but it truly does make or break your company. And we even see it in the B2C world every day, going to the grocery store, going through
Right.
to a restaurant and
Mhm.
customer service. I can't imagine you going to a restaurant and not getting quality service and be like, let me go to the back and just let me help them out.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. My friends already know that if we are at a certain restaurant and they start stacking the plates, I'm going to lose it.
So let's
They sit there and they say, please don't stack the plates. Please don't stack the plates.
that so much. Okay, so when you start working with a client, how do you really help them identify the real pain points in their workflow without really prescribing a specific platform or methodology?
Well, I get to know who they are, right? And unfortunately, I am that person that has to come in and tell you all the things that are wrong,
Mhm.
right? And I can only spin that so positively. I mean, I call it like I see it. And I try to refine the language and make them feel good because at the end of the day, you know, like a creative director, when they go out and start a business, no one tells you actually how to start a business, right?
Mm.
So you just get fortunate enough to take a client or get a client or get a referral, and then it's off to the races, right? And so these leaders, they know that they want to make a difference. They want to do it different than what they did before, where they came from. And so it's just so important to help them understand that I understand what it takes to grow a business. I
Mhm.
know I've been in this for over 27 years, and you have to you have to care about the people. It's not just about how great a designer they are, but there are tools and there are ways. If you're intuitive and in touch with your team, you're not seeing them from afar, and there's inner like emotional intelligence that you can draw from just by learning about that individual. So maybe this guy's off this month, but maybe he's always on point every month before for 10 years. But guess what the change was? He had a baby,
Mhm.
or someone just died, and maybe he's an introvert and he doesn't share that much. But you have to be in tune with your people to understand, okay, people aren't going to be fantastic 24/7, right? And so it's really learning and teaching the leaders to just remember where you came from, right? Remember where you came from, those humble beginnings. Go back and talk to your younger self and say, what could you do differently now that would help a person in their same step of development in their career, that would have been helpful for you to have known when you were there. Does that make sense?
Yes, that is huge. I was at a leadership conference over a decade ago at FedEx World Headquarters, and it was about how EQ, emotional intelligence, and such is just as important, if not more important than IQ in someone. And
Oh,
as we've
absolutely.
seen a decade later, just through the advancement of technology and the trials and tribulations of the world that we've been through, like absolutely. And so having that grace within a team to know that the person is trying as hard as they can in this season, but that doesn't mean that all that they are capable of is where they stand today.
Mhm.
Um, is so important in the workplace, and I feel like that's something that we need to remember both at home and in the workplace too, with your spouses,
Absolutely.
your children. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it all plays in the kind of person you're just going to be, because you spend 50% of your time at work.
Hmm. Yeah.
You spend another almost 50% sleeping. Like you only have so many hours during the day that you're awake and doing anything for yourself. And so I think that's part of it too, is how much are you doing to develop yourself as a leader, right?
Hmm.
It's not about just your teams. It's what are you doing to still grow and learn and stay abreast and, refine things that are maybe I didn't communicate that well. Owning it, right?
Yes.
Owning it, apologizing, and making it right. And so it's all of it plays into just everyday life and how we communicate in traffic, right? If we saw anything in 2020, and I just continue to see it, and I just see things like this, but we all carry a very similar human behavior. We're not that much different from one another. It doesn't matter what culture you come from, what skin color is, what your talents are. At the end of the day, you're just people
Hmm.
trying to make a difference and trying to live a life that's full of joy. And I've told my kids that, one, coming out of high school at 18, you have no idea what you want to do with the rest of your life. I didn't
Hmm.
figure it out till I was like 25. I didn't know. Um, and it's probably because that frontal lobe finally developed, right? So who knows? But what I tell my kids is like, you you have to decide what you're going to do every single day for the rest of your life at 18. Like, so you need to go into a place of work where you feel like you're part of something bigger,
Hmm.
that
Absolutely.
you have, that you enjoy. You get joy out of what you do. It's not drudgery, right? And so often that's what people get caught up in, is it's just, okay, this is just the cycle of life. We get up, we go to work, we come home, we eat, we have our yada yada yada, wash, rinse, and repeat. So again, I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely. And I think that's why um I love working with you so much, is because that's how faith plays into it as well. Because you can get in this rut where it's rinse and repeat every day what I'm doing, and you almost become this human robot. And it's
Right.
like, what are you here for? What is the purpose? What Guide a little bit deeper into your soul and understand what you're here for, how you can make an impact. It doesn't matter if you're working at a creative agency, a drive-through, a
Absolutely.
janitorial service, like whatever you're doing, you have an impact to bring joy, curiosity, generosity, excellence to what you're doing. And so that's what's so cool about, you can work with any industry and any business and come in and provide these principles for them. And chaos is almost inevitable at some point in growth in a company. How can leaders build resilience and lead with calm and clarity when everything else feels on fire?
Hmm. Again, it comes with life experience, right? Sometimes people are put in leadership roles because of tenure,
Hmm.
or because it's the next step for the raise, right? They're not put in leadership roles because they are good leaders, right? And so often people are put in those roles and they really don't know what to do with it. And so the output is what they were taught, right? Whether it was taught at home, maybe you came from, a dysfunctional family. And that, believe it or not, that plays out in how you communicate to others and how you work and how you respond to things, and so on and so forth. And so it's doing that check, making sure that um you're walking in excellence, right? And to build that calm and clarity is, one of the things I do is I find gaps in roles in organizations, right? Some where it doesn't even exist and they needed it. And oftentimes I encourage people to ask for forgiveness rather than permission, because they got to see it work, right? And I can't stand the chain of command and all the approval processes. It's like, no, I know you need this. We're just going to implement it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, um, I've in some roles, like project managers, traffic managers, those who are in the agency world, they are the pulse to the agency. If their role is built the way I believe it should be built and managed the way it should be, they are the pulse. And
Hmm.
so as a leader, they're most certainly part of that pulse, right? So if they seem frantic, then that's going to put some residual stress on the people around them. They're watching you. It's just like our children, right? Our children are watching us, and they learn more by watching us than what we tell them. And that's where all these terms, practice what you preach, walk the walk, that's where all of those things come from. And it's true. You have to, if you want respect, you have to give respect. If you want people to understand how to do their job better, then help them understand what they do well and what they're not doing so great, and where they can improve upon. So many agencies, or businesses just in general, they have lowered their standards, right? And there are no standards anymore. We always the person who is crying enough is what we bend ourselves to, and that shows a lack of respect for yourself and for what you're trying to build. And so it's just so important to guard that, to lead by example, for God's sakes, love on your people, and realize that we're not, in most cases, we're not curing cancer, right? We're building websites.
Yeah.
We're flipping burgers. I mean, but at the same time, you should always do everything that you do with a level of excellence and build off the excellence. Just because you might be in a mundane job or a kid in a grocery store, how you treat people is how you decide you're going to treat people later, right? Every time your feet hit the floor, you have an opportunity to decide the kind of impact you're going to make on other people's lives.
Well said. I love that. It seems simple, but it's not when you are surrounded by people and hundreds of employees, maybe even thousands or customers per se, and you're beaten down by the way they show up. So what advice would you give for someone to shift their mindset? And well, I'm not going to be nice if they're not being nice, or I'm, my clients aren't treating me with respect, so why should I treat them? What's your sort of idea on that?
Well, I also usually create hit lists when I go into an agency of the people who need to go.
Yeah.
And so if that's the
kind of cancer of the that's when you talk about the cancer of those employees that are really eating away at the excellence. Yeah.
Right. And and unfortunately, that's one thing that I do with my team builds is when I identify the people within your organization, I want someone representing each discipline. And I want at least one negative ninny on the team. Because if I can coach them, if I can convince them that there's value in doing things a certain way, I can convince anyone. And it's oftentimes those people who have those types of attitudes are unhappy for much bigger, deeper reasons, right? And that is where the divine can intercede in that way. And therapy, I used to work for an organization in Cincinnati, and it was my most favorite job in the world. Not that I don't love this job, but I have a great boss right now, right?
Yeah, she's pretty great.
But no, this place was just, the talent was fantastic, and people were built up and encouraged and also held accountable. I think I wrote a blog post a couple of years ago about, is accountability a bad word now, in business? And we're restricted. We've put so many different balls and chains on us that it's really hard to manage difficult people, right? And so it helps oftentimes to bring an outsider like myself in. Often when I come into an agency, I'm not saying anything new. I'm validating what you already knew, right? But it helps to have a person who has no bias.
Yes.
And help you understand, okay, these are the people who are holding you back. These are the people who are just in the wrong seat. And this person needs elevated, right? Or this person needs an improvement plan. And let me help you write their improvement plan. It's based on a job description. It's based on their roles. And you'd be surprised at how many agencies have those all over the place too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Okay. So When we talk about the sustainability of solutions, because not only is it about the people, but it's the workflows that are in place. I would love for you to talk about RACI. And so many solutions fade over time. How do you make sure the systems and habits you help implement last long after you leave? And can you tell us some of the top systems you work with, like Workamajig or say Monday.com, stuff that maybe people may not be aware of that they could utilize or help implement in their workplace with your help?
Yeah. Well, one of the first things is identifying what are the tools that you're using, because what you just named is often what I see. People are using multiple tools that do the same thing.
Mhm.
And that is a very big indicator to me that your processes are not documented or known through the agency. So what that means is people are doing whatever they got to do to get the work done, because no one has given them a global document or a global process to follow. And so, you know, ideally what you're doing is you're defining your workflow based on a client or based on the type of work that you do the most of. And again, if you identify humans within the organization, and not always leaders, leaders are caught up in the administrative, on the mundane. They're not close enough to the day to day that I don't rely on their information as much as I do the worker bees, because they're the ones who are growing. They're the ones who need the systems in place in order to give you the reporting that you need.
Mhm.
And so it's identifying those pain points for those individuals, and then you have to document your processes, right? And in my processes, I use a RACI format. It's a Microsoft coined word, but it just means, okay, who's responsible? Who are the approvers? Who's held accountable for it? Who am I consulting to get this information, and who just needs to know about it? And that goes beyond agency worlds. I mean, I'm seeing it a lot even now in healthcare, where
Mm.
everybody just crosses lanes
Yeah.
and they get in each other's way, and that creates animosity unnecessarily. So if there was just a process that everyone was trained and retrained, and with me, like I help create super users of the system and of the workflow, because if you don't have someone shepherding it after I've gone, right,
Mhm.
it usually falls apart, right? Whether this person with all the knowledge base went and moved on somewhere else. It's often why clients call me back, because they're like, oh, Kimberly, and I have this great client. He says, I am always channeling my inner Kimberly. And so if he knows he's doing something that I wouldn't agree on, he's like, he has this guilt. It's
Yes.
hilarious. It's awesome. But it's thinking about, you can't, why spend so much money on people with poor processes and workflows and lots of daily pain management, not change management, it's pain management.
Yeah.
When realizing you're leaving so much money on the table by not having these standardized operating procedures in place. And so, I help build those. We always have time in our industry to fix things, but if we just had the right people in the right seats at the right time, you're a lot more profitable and productive. And you also have to define benchmarks to what you do. You don't just, I get this a lot, and this is going to upset some people, so I apologize. Not
Ooh,
really.
give it to us. Yeah.
So many clients love to say, well, this client loves us. We've got this great relationship with them. Money is never an issue. They'll pay whatever what we bill them. So if they come to us with the 31 changes on a flyer, we're going to do it. And that is poor business practices,
Mhm.
because what they're not realizing in that is that, one, that client sees you. Yes, they see you as a great partner. And maybe they don't have the level of thinking that says, you're an order taker. You're not much different than the kids at McDonald's.
Right.
And so clients need strategic partners with them. I used to always train account people to say, you know what, you need to always be thinking about your client and their brand and how you can magnify that, how you can make changes, or if you notice it in the commercial, I mean, it's because I'm in this creative world, I always I think like that. And, whether I'm decorating a room, I put a plant up and I've got to see what it looks like from every angle. I'm free.
It's a blessing and a curse.
When we've done the discovery, then I help you understand we've got to put benchmarks in place. And those benchmarks, as I was saying about that other client, 30 rounds, it's okay. What they are not realizing is that those 30 rounds of that client always telling you to jump and you say hi is impacting the quality and the profit margins on other client work who might be honoring that. Your creative isn't as good. It's more execution. And so you need to have junior level people in there doing that type of work if that's what you want to do. But no stellar creative or account or strategists are going to be on your team or even be attracted to your team to work with you if that's what your MO is, right? And you're not going to gain any great client relationships, because those people need me to come in and help them figure out how to communicate with their vendors, right? Or their partners. So it's, for me, I teach everyone, you have to set expectations and then you have to manage to those expectations. A client, again, I go back to our children, everyone needs structure. When you don't have structure in your life, everything falls apart. It's chaos. It's stressful. You're always pissed off, or you're grumpy, or you're negative ninny running, if there's something deeper there. And I'm not a therapist, but they need one. And maybe that's what I was going to say earlier, that place that I loved in Cincinnati, the HR team thought of getting a concierge service, right? To help take your dry cleaning, or to offer you, they paid for therapy once a month at minimum, right? So they cared about who we were as people. They cared about our families. They cared. And that helps when you have to make even bigger decisions too, right? So you have to dig deeper. You have to know who it is that you're working with and come alongside them. I think, yeah.
I think even just with like the employee benefits in your workplace, like what are you doing as a business owner that provides creativity, like therapy sessions or volunteer days where you get to choose where you're going to serve, spend time. Maybe it's with your family, maybe it's with a coworker, or maybe it's by yourself because you're sick of your coworkers,
Right.
It doesn't always have to be with them,
Right.
and yeah, I think that's so great. Where we are, we have 8 therapy sessions a year, and that are complimentary, and then we have them at a discounted rate, and those are super helpful, not only for us but our immediate family as well. And so, switching gears a little bit, you've got the mindset and the workflows, and you have values in business, but you also, one of the biggest parts about making a company continue to be successful or run even is their finances and financial transparency and alignment. And so you and your team also work with organizations on financial strategy. How do you help leadership teams build transparency and alignment around budgets and finances in a way that works with any system?
Right. So let's just first say this. Most of these systems, project management system, accounting systems, they're all fundamentally the same. Okay. And what often happens is, well, let me back up. My process and my methodology means ops and finance have to talk. They have to be arm in arm. And oftentimes in the industry, finance is like the scary office in the dark corner that everyone is afraid to ask questions about. And they don't want to hear from Marge today because they're over budget on a project. Right. And so I remember back when I was young, when I was in the business, and one of the things I needed to understand was the different personalities throughout the organization, right?
That's
and understanding people's skill sets and experience first, right? And leveraging even their resumes. That's another story I can tell in just a second, but it's ops and finance have to hold hands. And I hate to break it to every person out there, but your revenue means nothing. Your revenue margins, whether they're going up over year after year after year, if you're not managing it internally to the degree of, you can see project profitability and resource allocations and utilizations. You can bill something for $10,000, but how do you know it costs that much to make?
Right.
Right. And so I have finance as part of those workflow teams. I always have to have someone in finance represent the finance team. And so, maybe we're not getting SOWs or MSAs on time. And maybe you can't, finance needs all this information, but instead they're chasing it at the end when it's time to bill them. And so it's again, no one should have to chase anything, right? When we're done, you don't. I implement approval processes and okay, if not this, then that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it improves significantly when people understand what the role means and the impact that they have on it, both in front and behind. Because when I was, you've got finance, but I remember being in the business and there was always account and creative, and they were always butting heads. And they butt heads for these reasons. One, because the account person didn't understand all the questions that they needed to ask a client, right? And creative thought they're just yes men. They never fight for our creative. They just do and do and do and do. And so one of the things, an easy fix for that is, okay, let's build creative up to where they can help present their design, fight for their own design. And then that way they're also in a room with the client and understanding and hearing what the client is saying and how the pushback starts to happen and how this account person may not be equipped because they don't have enough knowledge base because you haven't cross-trained them to understand what type of work they're trying to sell and how they can push back. And so everyone comes out of school, right? What kind of grooming are you giving them? What kind of opportunities are you giving them even to just shadow within the agency? Do rehearsals before you do a dog and pony show, right? Anticipate the questions, anticipate the pushback. That's coaching. That's leadership coaching. That's team coaching, and it's development. And if you just think that you don't need to continue to learn and sharpen your skills, iron sharpens iron, right? And if you want a piece of wood and an iron and you just want to keep hitting that dull piece of wood, that's what you're going to get in return. And so it's so important for cross-training and understanding each person's role within the organization and how you fit into it.
Yes, that is so good. That is such a good piece of advice for any business owner, but any person that is, out of college or even in college. That's just great. Like how you show up, your preparation. It reminds me of a cityCURRENT speaker we had, Javier Pena, who was the conductor for the Goodwill band, and it was a special needs band. And so he was all about what can I do to the documentary is called For Once in My Life. And in the movie, as their musical director, he's slowly nurturing them into musicians, demonstrating their superhuman abilities. Because not only he helps them realize that their disability is actually a unique ability to hear something that someone may not be able to hear. And how when you work together as an orchestra, if the tuba is not sounding good, then the clarinet may not be able to know when it's their turn and such.
Exactly.
And so it's very similar. There's a lot of synergy there between what you're saying as well and how you show up, but then how you work together in your orchestra from day to day, and what that does to really just lead with excellence, like you've talked about so far. So we've talked about all of the cool ways that you are helping businesses thrive. One of the ways is, having you speak. And so coming into businesses, leadership conferences and such, and you come in and you help them understand, giving talks like From Chaos to Clarity. how do you turn inspiration into concrete next steps? Talk about some of the ways that businesses can not only hire you for workflows and processes, but also for workplace culture, leadership trainings. Go ahead and talk about that.
Working with me, whether you're in an agency, if you're a business, or even a church. I've actually gone into churches and helped identify their operational gaps. System agnostic is what I consider myself, right? There isn't, like I said earlier, these systems are all predominantly or fundamentally the same. So what I need to understand is, okay, what is your business model? How do you currently do it today? And then how do I improve upon that to manage the pains and the challenges that you are currently experiencing? And what we do together is, we talk a lot and we identify and build your process together. The processes, your people and your processes should drive any system you're working in. It shouldn't be the other way around. And I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter what software that you're working in, whether it's Monday.com, whether it's Ravetree, whether it's ESP, whether it's QuickBooks, whether it's SaaS, NetSuite, all of them out there. It requires you to define what this looks like and how it's going to be managed internally if you want to get your money's worth. Right. So you work with your people then help define the process, and then that helps drive data sets. So how do you want to see reports? How do you want to see improvement plans? How do you want to see utilization? Utilization is across the board. It doesn't matter if you're an agency or a doctor's office. You want to get the most out of your people, right? And that's what utilization is. We want to make them productive. We want them making us money, right? We want people stewarding efficiencies, right? Stewarding the resources we've been given. And so those are the types of things that I can help you, even if you're not in an agency. I can help train and coach you how to manage differently, what to get out of your people. And then, whether it is, expense reports or say time entry. People have time entry issues all across the board. And it's managing, what does that look like? How to incentivize people to do things differently, such as back to that client with the client who will pay anything. One, I'd want to have a conversation with that group, the client itself, because they're not being a good steward of the financial resources internally that they're then giving to all the agencies to do the work, right? They're casting their nets too wide. And so it's trying to pull that back and rein in the wild, wild west. And I have an eye for these things. I can see the gaps. I can see the people. And it's really all the same things that I'm implementing really across the board. I mean, it's just doing it and customizing it for your team, for your group. And I love to be able to just coach and share challenges and help refine how people do things, because there's always those aha moments that are the most rewarding for both me and them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I keep going back in my head to what you were saying about how change management is really just pain management in a lot of businesses right now. And so, you've got the aching pains of missed deadlines, overwhelm, and you've got these prescriptions like taking a painkiller for a broken bone, but they dull the symptoms and they might go away for a while, but there's still this underlying problem, right? And so when you come in, when you come in, you're like, you are the holistic approach of stop throwing quick fixes at symptoms and start curing the disease in your organization. And so that's where you're finding clarity in a culture that becomes healthier, teams that are aligned together and that embrace change. And that's where you'll realize that your business was full of cancer. And now you can come in and help cure them through a holistic approach, regardless of the industry, which is so powerful because for the most part, in the past, you have worked with creative agencies, but what you've realized over the past 2 decades is that many of these same solutions can be fit into different industries, which is
Yes.
a
Mhm.
really cool part of seeing the work that you're doing firsthand.
Right. It keeps it interesting for me too. Plus even for myself, I learn things and I'm like, ooh, I kind of like how you do that. And so I'm going to implement that into part of my output for other clients. And so I've worked with healthcare, I've worked with health insurance groups, I've worked with banking, I've done construction, I've done agency work, I've seen it all, and I've had my hand in pretty much everything. And
Mhm.
so I have a different perspective, and I'm able to bring that to the table. The key is for leadership is, sometimes, you got to spend money to make money.
Mhm.
And there's nothing worse than you have, let's say you have a broken bone, but you think fixing it is just running an ace bandage around it and hopping on one foot. And you're okay with that. You're okay with the extra energy that takes, the extra time, and even the extra pain and suffering that come along with it. Instead of, let's take a step back, let's go see the appropriate radiologist, let's see a surgeon perhaps. Let's talk to the experts that will help come in and provide a plan to get you healed, heal your broken bone, get you the physical therapy that you need, right? Give you the training that you need to take home and work on the exercises there. It's all the same thing, right? So in business, are you willing to spend the money, the upfront costs, right, to improve long-term and scale and growth? And too often, they think, like I had a client recently, I just need her to fix the database so my reporting is good. Do you know how much is tied to reporting? And so, it's funny how, like, when you go in to say get your car fixed and someone says, well, it's $5,000 to do X. Well, that's too much. Well, compared to what? I've got mechanics back here. I've got a service industry. I have tools that we pay for. I have big equipment. You don't just get to come in and ask me questions and free information and then
Right.
attempt to apply it to your business. And then it doesn't work and you get pissed off. I mean,
Yeah. And the skilled labor that you have and the amount of information that you have observed and absorbed and given out for decades, and then to say like, oh well, I think that's too much. You don't even know. Okay, then you fix it and see what happens,
right, right. Yeah, exactly.
So where can people go to learn more about KF strategies, your services, support your efforts, and um, go from chaos to clarity?
Yeah, I would love that. Well, one, check out our website, KF Strategies, kf-strategies.com. That will share with you my about story, where this all came from. This whole business is driven on faith. I'm here to honor God and please Him, and encourage and love on other people through the work that I do, because I just want to see people do well. I want to see people thrive, and my heart, I care probably too much about people and their businesses. And so find me there. You can find me on social media, LinkedIn, primarily. You'll see some things on Facebook and Instagram, but there I try to have a little bit more fun. There's all kinds of ways to find me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kimberley Fulwood, thank you so much for having the empathy to help others and really make it your mission to help build people first systems that empower leaders, but also create a world where we're all just trying to do the best we can with generosity and excellence. So once again, kf-strategies.com to learn more about Kimberley Fulwood. Kimberley, thank you so much for coming on the City Current Show and for powering the good.
Yes, thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate it.